time, I'll be putting some videos around security and different service available in Azure. And there will be some how-tos and deep dive as we go on. Basically, the value here is how you can leverage the capabilities within Sentinel to improve and protect your tenant services in the cloud. There are chances for data leakage, password leakage, account compromise, phishing emails. So we'll look into that. And that's why if you have Azure subscription, if you're running your digital workplace using Microsoft Office 365, and even if you have your on-premises application, basically it is a cloud native security information and event manager, which is a SIEM. And so it's a SIEM platform, and it uses built-in AI, which can help you analyze large volumes of data across your enterprise, not just 365, and which is fast and saves money and costs. We'll look into that. Basically, Azure Sentinel collects and aggregates the data from all sources, which includes users, the applications, servers, devices, and they can be anywhere, maybe in cloud, on premises, hybrid environment, and it has built-in connectors which can easily bring on board the select solutions. We'll look into that. What are those features available? And it can exist with your existing tools and through REST API, through connectors and all that. So, and pretty much most of the stuff is built in, which is not built in. You can go to GitHub and you can find those stuff. So if you subscribe my channel, you'll be seeing all those. So let's get started. So if you look at the screen, these are your end user, the people on the road, mobile devices, on-premise data, partners. So basically, because of the cloud, your firewall, your data center is not your protection layer, because today everyone is in the cloud. And when you move to the cloud, your mobile workforce is there, and then basically your identity. So compare with your on-prem, where you need to either VPN or you need to log into the corporate network. Now, as soon as you go to the cloud, you are not really hitting those. So that's kind of a totally different ball game here. Your identity is in the cloud. And regardless which size of the organization you are, pretty much you have all the same challenge, because your people, your application, let's say in this case, maybe SaaS-based. We talk about IoT, anything. So it's all cloud related. And that's why you need artificial intelligence enabled solutions. So what happens, the security operations mission is to protect organization information and assets, which is becoming increasingly difficult because attack techniques and frequencies and complexities are also evolving at the same time. Again, because of the cloud, the way the attack used to be is totally different, because attacker also leveraging cloud capabilities, advancements. So that's why you need a smart AI machine learning enabled solution, SOC product to defend and protect against those kind of attacks. So if there is a normal known anomaly or attack is there, it should just block itself. So threat continues, your attacks are increasing. If you look at the security reports, now we have IoT, it needs to be protected. And also not only that, but sometimes there's a lot of false positive, there's alert fatigue, because if you're getting so many alerts, you're hammered with alerts, your SOC, then also it's a counterproductive, and so much volume is coming, so much noise is coming. So very difficult to manage, and you have different layers and dashboards to manage. Endpoint security has a different dashboard versus the servers is different. Your identity monitoring, you're using something else. So 3-4 places, you have to look into that. And honestly, if you do not have everything in one place, you cannot really track and become really challenging. So that's being said, in this scenario, investigation is complex and time consuming, and every second matters in security operations. So current solutions are not architected for today's demand, and your legacy on-prem SIEM require powerful hardware, extensive maintenance, and they're expensive. If you need to keep it for a year, for example, and if you have 400 servers, 10,000 employees and devices, so do the math. So you need easily terabytes of storage, then you have to manage that storage. So it's a very costly thing, and then you have to patch and manage and everything. So this is where it's counterproductive. So now the cloud can help, and we'll look into that how Sentinel is going to help your security operations team with this AI and machine learning capabilities. And how does the AI and machine learning model works? So Azure Sentinel is a cloud native SIEM for your intelligent security analytics for the enterprise. And the way it's work, of course, pretty much every product is collect, detect, and then investigate and respond. So this is what you can do. And most of the stuff, if you want, you can do automated. If you have an Office 365, data ingestion is free. So you will see those automated rules and templates available, which are automatically triggered and protect your services. So that's the beauty of the cloud. You spin up, it's work security as a service. You just turn it on. You don't have to worry about any hardware. You don't have to worry about anything, storage, configuration. Let's say it's very simple and easy to, let's say, put the data from Office 365. And it supports third-party integration. It supports even syslog, where you can pull the data. Basically, it's a SaaS model of security where you do not have to worry about anything like that. When you go to the cloud native SIEM, which is Sentinel, you don't need to have any infrastructure costs. You pay as you go. And Office 365 data ingestion is free. So it's perfect if you have Office 365, but you can also bring third party through the API. So let's take a look. How does it integrate with existing tools and data sources? Azure Sentinel aggregates all the security data with built-in connectors. As you can see on the screen, Microsoft 365 has built-in connector, Microsoft Azure. However, you can bring your other third-party data also. For example, there are connectors available, which I will show you in a moment. For example, F5, Palo Alto, Symantec, and many others. And that's Azure Sentinel. Teams keep updating that. So Azure Sentinel is based on Azure Monitor. One good thing is that it's an open and extended solution. It's GitHub, so you can customize it. You can import it, the libraries from the GitHub itself. So there are a lot of cool stuff available. If you want to customize and these detection, you can build your own machine learning models. Then you can bring your own models, and you can be using Graph API to integrate with your existing threat intelligence feed. All right, let's see what's there in artificial intelligence. So basically, security analysts faces a huge burden of triage, as they are not only have to shift through a sea of different alerts, because they're looking at a lot of alerts, but we also have to correlate different products manually, use traditional correlation engines. So this is basically can help you reduce those noise. And then when you want to investigate those threats, so there's a threat hunting model, as you can see on the screen. You can visualize the attack and take quick actions in the same dashboard. You can be proactive of suspicious activities. If you see somebody's trying to log in to disable account from IP, those kind of attack are there. And then you can take the action based on that. You can pull those reports. You can do the threat hunting against that. Now it comes to the automation piece of it. So what we have talked about is once you're done with that, you're as an analyst or your security operation working on that. So some of the tasks where you just want to take automated action. So you can be proactive. So you don't want to be reactive and waited. So for example, you can create some logic apps, and those logic apps, you can configure them, which can send you an email, or it can even be configured to take some actions. You can even integrate those Azure logic apps and send emails to your service desk or maybe ServiceNow or different workflow. So basically, that is the capability using some playbooks. And that being said, here, if you need more information, you go to the Azure Sentinel website. Here is my tenant, the one I use for my personal use, but it's a production tenant. And you can see here on the dashboard, one single dashboard, it shows me the events, the alert, incidents, and it's kind of giving me a history of the data for as far as I can go back. And then I can select, if you see it's changing. So tell me what time today at 11 a.m. There were 2 alerts, 6 office activity, Azure activity or not. So if I move here, you see these things are moving. So again, were there any alert? Yes, some Azure activity, 6 p.m. And these rules got triggered, which I created. So that's why there are some incidents and alerts created. The usage is showing here. We'll look into that, what the usage is about. Office activity was there high at 2 p.m. So the idea is that once you do that, it's not necessary it's high and low. You're going to learn what's high is high for your environment. So over the time of the next few weeks, you're going to learn it. So once you spin it up, that you want to see it right away. It's going to take time, and then you can see it. There are incidents. You can go to the each individual incident. You can look into the workbooks. You can do the hunting, notebooks, data connectors I was talking to you. So let's take a look. What are the data connectors? In the next video, pretty much I'm going to be showing you more details on these data connectors, how to understand, how to read them, and what you can do. A lot of Azure, but I told you about third party. So you have third party Barracuda available, Checkpoint, Cisco SA, Citrix, CyberArk, F5, Forcepoint. Even you can bring CASB data here. You can have Microsoft Defender, so you can bring your endpoint data here. Web firewall, identity, Palo Alto, I was telling you before, Symantec, Cyber Defense Exchange, and you can even bring syslog if your product is not listed here. You can configure a server, ingest the data through a syslog, and all that stuff. So that's being said, this was high-level overview of Microsoft Azure Sentinel. Thank you again. If you like this video, subscribe it, share it, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you. Another episode on Azure Sentinel. In my previous video, high-level overview of Microsoft Azure Sentinel. Today we'll do another short video, kind of go over different features here. So if you look at my screen, it is my production tenant, and I'm ingesting the data through my Office 365, and I'm also bringing the data from different services within Azure. So this is a dashboard, as you can see here. And then we have logs, because basically Azure works on log monitoring. And then we have different data sources available here, guides. So you can go here. This interface is about if you want to run some query. There are some query I ran in the past. And then you can run additional query. You can go into the security insights, look for log management, for example. And if you come to the incidents, basically I created some incidents which goes, and those are the incidents and rule you can create. You want to create an incident based on some behavior and attack. What we're going to do now is, you can see the evidence. We'll look into the alert and everything here. Today I'm going to discuss this. So there are workbooks available, and we'll look into see what are the workbooks and what are the data connectors today, because data connector is your source. Basically, that's where these all APIs, they're built-in APIs, and every time Microsoft is building it, and if you're missing something, go to the GitHub and you may bring it from there. And there are options. If your product is not listed, you can go to syslog, set up a server, and bring from there. So different ways of doing it. You can bring Microsoft stuff, which I already have. You can bring Palo Alto, you can bring Barracuda and all that stuff. So if you look at here, all these things, Cloud App Security, Office 365, the one which is in green are the one which are connected. So there are in my tenant or subscription, I have 39 connectors. One they are saying is coming soon, which I'm not sure which one is that. And 7 of them are connected. So once you connect the data connector, which is your source, and then you go to the workbook, and this is where you do this stuff. So data connector, for example, Azure Security Center, or let me just go with Azure Active Directory or Identity Protection. So in Identity Protection, there's nothing. So here we see some meaningful data. And then here, if I mouse over, we see these analysis or analytics, and it is bringing this type of data, the sign-in logs and the audit log. So this is coming from Azure, which has sign-in logs and audit logs, and this is where it's pulling the data from basically. And I'll just read for you the description. It gives you the insight into Azure AD by connecting audit and sign-in logs to Azure Sentinel and gather insight around Azure Active Directory scenarios. You can learn about apps usage, about conditional access policies, legacy authentication, all that stuff. We'll look into those, how you can leverage that and work on security, and also Azure's management groups and all that stuff you bring in here. What kind of workbook I have? So there are 45 templates available. The one I have configured are these workbooks, sign-in logs, protections. So if I go in there, I have saved workbooks, I have a template. So basically when I'm going to click them, we can see more. View saved workbook, view, click here, and once we ingest the data, we can start looking into that. So here, as you can see on the screen, still refreshing it, is giving me the data for the last 14 days. I can sort them by even 30 days, custom, even every 5 minutes I can go, and I can select each individual application, and that's the beauty where I want to know sign-in analysis on particular app, and if I see increase or decrease, it's really worth it. You can leverage that. And then here again, you have the users, which I have a users. You can see my user Adnan 650 sign in the last 14 days. I can change it to last hour or maybe a day, for example. If I wanted to put last 24 hours, then it's updated right away. And query has not any results, so we go, let's say 24 to 48 hours and see if there's any data. Let me go further, 3 days. If you see, we should be able to see some data here now. And then it's just to sign in from Adnan. So it's my particular my tenant. So that being said, that I just wanted to share. In the next video, we'll go into the different data connectors, and maybe we'll go more into different apps kind of cover. So stay tuned, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you. This is a continued series of Azure Sentinel. So if you're interested, do subscribe my channel, share the video, and I have already posted before this video a couple of more videos in the past. Go back, take a look, understand the high level overview, what Sentinel is all about, how does it work, the high level concept. And in this video, we'll look into that, some of the different data connectors and the workbooks available in Sentinel, which I configured. We'll look into that, especially when people are working from home, and then you want to know if they're using Office 365 or any application which is using your Azure AD as for authentication, for sign in, if you see some suspicious activity. So we'll look into that. There are screen so many templates available from Azure out of the box, Azure Sentinel, but the one I have configured is around 8 of them. we'll look into that as an Exchange Online and see what's going on. I'm in my Exchange Online in the last 14 days. So let's go. Workbook is there, data ingested from Office 365, just for your information, ingestion from Office 365 data to Microsoft Azure Sentinel is free. So if you have Microsoft Office 365, you sign up for the Azure Sentinel and you ingest the data, the cost of the data is free. So basically you pay nothing. So once you configure all that stuff, your data connectors, and then you have this workbook. So I want to try my this workbook and see what's going on in my Office 365 tenant or Exchange Online, because I want to see what's there. So we'll see if this is not available. As I said, we'll look into that. If the data is not available, it might have lost or the connector is not configured. So we can try another connector and see what's there. So we go in there and we'll try Office 365, and this will be giving us what I am looking for, some of the data. So let's say let it refresh, and here again there is no data. So we'll go back, and this time I am going to try Microsoft Azure Activity, or we can go to the audit logs. So we go there on the audit logs, and hopefully this time I'll be able to see some data from 90 days. There you go. The two last attempt didn't work, but here is some really interesting, amazing data. As you can see in the last 90 days, what's going on in my tenant. So this is my production tenant. So I do not have 100,000 accounts. So it's not in millions. So it's just few accounts I have, which is the production account basically. So data is meaningful here. Doesn't matter on the number. So if you look at on the dashboard, update user 184, STS token refresh, change password with self-service, policies, user change password. Are there any disable accounts, enable accounts, update services? And if you keep going all the way down, you can see, and there is a success and failure. So I'm interested in the failure. Change password, self-service failed 10 times. So I'm not sure if I did it or when did it happen. But so if I need to be more meaningful, I can reduce it to 30 days or maybe 7 days. And then it will refresh the data, as you can see on the fly, which is coming from the log analytics, which is the data we ingest. So it's not pulling it directly from Office 365 tenant. It's pulling it from its workspace, the log analytics. And then we can select each individual user here, and you can select different items and showing all the results, success, failure, however you want it to configure. And then once you do that, you can come to the more details, and were there any PIM, privilege identity. So depending what level of subscription you have, what kind of features you have, and then you can literally have an one dashboard with 360-degree view of your all services. So I'm just showing the Office 365 now. It can be anything. It can be your VM. It can be different products and services, even on your on-prem environment. So I hope it made sense to you. So in the next videos, I'll fix my tenant for Office 365, and I'll be sharing more videos around that. So if you like it, do subscribe my channel. Today's episode will go through Azure Sentinel for Office 365, as we have seen in the previous video. I did some demos, and one of the demo for Office 365 didn't work. So today we'll try it again and see how we can leverage Azure Sentinel for Office 365. And the reason is that I'm doing it just for Office 365 because data ingestion is free. It doesn't mean you cannot do for other network devices or other VMs. For example, you can use syslog. You can bring in the data from other services, even from your on-prem. So I kind of defined all these things, high-level overview in my previous video. But today, basically, if you are running Office 365, then there is no reason why not to use this. So that's being said, we'll go through it, and why especially or specifically in Office 365, because you're already pretty much using the service. Ingestion is free. So it's really win-win, because you lose nothing and you get better insight. And also, if you want to talk about different organization where people have different roles and responsibilities, so you may not necessarily need to be a global administrator for Office 365 to read this data, because you are a security administrator. And once your configuration and setup is done for data ingestion, you don't really need those root level access. You can just get away with this security admin. So I'm here at the dashboard, and just again, it's a dashboard, office activity, usage, and some of the mass downloads. So but here I'm here in the workbook, and from the workbook I have set up already 8 workbooks. So I'll go each of them. Today what I'm gonna do now is I have Exchange Online, and I have Office 365, and SharePoint and OneDrive. So it looks obvious that you can individually look at the Exchange Online by tracing and analyzing all the Exchange operation and user activities. And if you come here, it's talking about OneDrive activities, and then in Office 365 is everything Office 365. So I think it's better for this video, we'll look into Office 365 today. So let me just go and select all Exchange, OneDrive, and all that stuff. So I gotta select, I can individually select from here either way, and then showing me by default for 90 days. And this is super awesome. Again, I don't want to go to Exchange portal and configure PowerShell. It's right here in just one single dashboard. I have what I need: a modify folder permission, set cache mailbox permission. Again, even it's helpful for Exchange administrator or SharePoint, not necessarily for security, because security do require, let's say if you have to audit these kind of stuff, that's really important. But again, whichever the case you are dealing with or what you need, it shows all activities. April, if you can look here, let me just show you. Yeah, April around 9 a.m. and I have this many Exchange related stuff, OneDrive and SharePoint, and activities by workload. If you look at here, activities by type, file type, 2000 file types, and we can dig into more. Update, create, and delete activities. Here's a chart, nice, beautiful. And then we have group activities here, user activities per week, folder changes, folders created, modify folder permission is an important one. So if you monitor, and if your folder permission in your organization, for example, for the last 14 days or 30 days is pretty much 1000 or 2000, and all of a sudden there's a jump for 10x, then you have to be concerned about. As I said before, this is a 360-degree view, bird's eye view of your whole tenant, in this particular case of Office 365. You can see all this information as you can see on the screen. Exchange admin, Exchange set conditional access policies, move to deleted items, all that stuff. You can sort them, record type, for example. Let's try this one, a record type generated, for example. And then here's another one, by user. So here's my friend of mine from UK. He accessed this. So he's an external account. That's looked like I gave him some access for the file. So he's been doing a lot of activities from UK. File viewed, file extend, upload. He did upload, yes. File access and all that, the stuff. Now, if I go myself here, let's see what's activity in my account. So you can see soft delete. I have deleted. I was cleaning up my mailbox. Move to deleted items, file views. So that's pretty awesome, and you don't have to do it for every member in your organization. But again, if you have a CXO suite, high profile user, you may want to look into that and understand. SharePoint and OneDrive stuff is here, as I told you before. File previews, access, file by downloads, upload extensions. So it's pretty awesome. So I would say just give it a try. If you have in your tenant, go for it. Ingestion is free. So that's being said, in the next episode, we'll talk about more different features and capabilities. And do subscribe my channel. Hey folks, thanks for another episode on Azure Sentinel, another cloud security stuff. So this is another episode. Last episode, I was showing you about Microsoft Exchange, not Exchange, Office 365 ingestion and Sentinel, and we looked into some of a high-level dashboard and different activities by users. So today, I will cover Exchange Online and SharePoint. So let's get into it. So these are the 8 workbooks. As I told you before, I have them. So last time I did select the template for this one, and today we're gonna look into Exchange Online and see what's there, and then Microsoft OneDrive and SharePoint. So let's see how much time. This is super awesome, right? So when I used to do Exchange, you know, I had to do all this report. I had to pull it through PowerShell. Honestly, it took hours and sometimes days, depending how big your environment is, right? So here, all the data is ingested in your Azure tenant, and now this is Sentinel. You can go by days and then select, hey, you know, how many soft deleted happened in my environment for whatever the reason you want to look into that. The move items. So let's pick up something which is meaningful for this particular episode. Of course, you can go on and on everything, but let me select something which is set-mailbox and see what's there in the last 90 days. So basically, there are a couple of set-mailbox commandlets run on these mailboxes, and then from there you can go and start looking into it and start hunting it and trace it. Okay, what's going on? Why there are so many commands? Why there are so many operations count in 90 days on this particular these 2 mailboxes? What we can do next is let's say multi mail items accessed. Okay, so if we try that one, see what's we gonna get here. So I have another account in this tenant, mail item access. Okay, so if it's normal, fine, but if you're attacked with some suspicious ransom or some malicious code, whatever the case would be. So if it's beyond normal, if it's 700,000, then I would be curious about. So again, you have to be creative and come up with your own creativity. What is normal for you in your organization? Organization size matter, and also how many days you are going back. Basically, you want to do something in the last 5 minutes, you can look into that if something happened. And in the last 5 minutes, let me try everything. So in the last 5 minutes, because there is no data pulled in, so we can try last 24 hours and see what's there, what's going on across the whole tenant in there. So these are the, for example, emails coming in for different job portal, for example, supervisory review thing. So yeah, so something which is suspicious, which is not normal, you may want to look into that. Or for example, we can go for another 48 hours and see. Here you go. So the more data you have, the more better dashboard will come with here. Come here, like suspicious activities, external activities. So if you have not enabled external access for OneDrive or something like that, then you would be worried about. If it is, then it will be just normal. So depend, as I said before, it all depends on the configuration on your tenant, on the setups. There are no activities around that. So if I'm going to show you one more meaningful data, to go to 90 days and see what's there. So here is the report for the last 90 days. Supervision activities, mail item access, set mailbox, set users. You see, this is pretty awesome data and pretty awesome report available here. And if you go to large environment, these will be in hundreds and thousands or maybe in millions. So that's what I covered in this video. And In the next video, we will do the same thing for Microsoft OneDrive and SharePoint dashboard. In today's video, we will look into another data connector, which is, I told you in my previous video, OneDrive and SharePoint. And last time I covered Exchange Online, and before that I covered Office 365. So if you want to go back, go through them, understand the high level overview of Azure Sentinel, how these things there, connectors, workbook, and all that stuff. But today we'll look into the dashboard for OneDrive. So basically, data ingestion is free, which I've been saying in my previous video. So if you have a tenant and you want to ingest the data in Azure Sentinel, that's what you configure it, and then you come in here and be able to see what's going on in your tenant specific to OneDrive and SharePoint. So we'll look into that. So here is nothing, right? So don't have to worry about that. You can select, for example, 90 days to get more meaningful, more data, for example, and then you can see what the action has been performed. So let's take a look what's there. File views or previews, file access by user, file modified, uploaded in your tenant, downloaded, page views, search queries, list sharings, groups added. Maybe if you're deploying Microsoft Teams, so you would see a definitely high increased number of groups here, site collections, folder modified, and all that stuff. So these numbers are pretty low in my tenant because it's a very small environment I have. But again, this is a production one, and then once I have that, and we put the data, hold on. So that's the activities here. I am able to see it. So that's what it looks like in my tenant in the last 90 days. Maybe just very low number, but you know, for environment like I have, few users, 5, 6, it's nothing. And then it shows my SharePoint libraries and sites, what kind of data, what kind of activity I have here. And here you go, one more, file operations. So you can see all the file operations, counts, file access, downloaded if you have a mass download. So let's say in the 90 days, if it's 79 for me, and tomorrow, day after tomorrow, if I come back, in the 90 days, it was just 79. If it happens to be, for example, 1,000 files, for example, download. So that's not normal. And this is where I need to be careful. And this is where I want to be taking some actions, you know. So that's, you have to be creative and do customization on your own, figure it out, work on that accordingly. Same thing, in the 90 days, I have only 22 files deleted. Yeah, if it happened to be 200 or let's say 2000, then I would be surprised and I'll have to take the action. So basically, this is what you need to be doing when you implement this AI and machine learning, and then you can create incidents and all that stuff. So we'll look into that future videos, how we can go from there. Today and the previous video, just looking at, okay, what's there available, what kind of a dashboard, what kind of features. And here it also give you a preview of let's say my recorded videos I did for exam for Azure. I can see it here. So it's showing me for all the users, all the stuff you have here. And yeah, that's pretty much I have in this specific to it. Let's see if I can do something else. That's there. If we go to specifically, for example, files downloaded or files deleted, for example, files deleted, 22 files were deleted. So we'll get the data where they were deleted from, which site exactly. And these are the performance, client IP, it's showing you here. And what kind of files deleted, it also showing. This is pretty awesome. And then perfect even, yeah, so that's so powerful. Even do one more before we do that. It's about add it to group, see if I get anything team related stuff or teams group, which I'm not sure. We'll find out. Yeah, this is all the external user we have added to group. Okay, so these are external user. Basically, it looks like added to the group. What I was expecting is something specific to, but that's fine. I mean, as I said, you can do it whatever you want in your tenant. This is so huge. It's a lot of stuff, a lot of information available in this, and you can take hours to digest. But again, you don't want to do that. You want to automate it. And so, but again, once you learn what's going on in your tenant, and based on that, you can start working on that and go from there. And if you do, subscribe my channel, and I will see you in my next video with some more interesting stuff. Thanks for watching. So this is something in Azure Sentinel called Workbook. And as you can see, these are the defined template, and these are my workbook, which has already been set up. So 110 templates available. There are 30 workbooks saved, and basically you don't have to reinvent the wheel, because you just use this workbook and leverage those workbook, and it will do all the backend stuff for you. However, you can also add the workbook, but if there is something available, and this is how you can develop on top of that. So what I'm going to do now, since I have some updates available, for example, let's take a look here. I wanted to see this one, for example. So it will give you more details what has been added in this workbook, for example, and what is the required data types. Let's say even if you install or set up this workbook and save this work, basically, but if you do not have this data collection from these sources, it won't work. So you can go back and check my previous video, how do you connect the data sources. This is where these workbooks are there. So let's say here's one more of my interest about cybersecurity maturity model certification. There's a whole information security related topic just for CMMC, mostly used in governance, risk, and compliance. So once you have that and you have the data available from these resources, so you run this template, it can tell you if your environment is compliant or not based on the configuration and setup available. So without going more into the details of each and every workbook, which I will probably gonna set up a separate videos for each of them if need be. But here, if you can read that, Azure Sentinel's workbook provides the mechanism for viewing log queries, which are aligned with CMMC control access, right? So basically, this is coming from industrial best practices, and mostly required by governance, risk, and compliance, and portfolio including service offering 365 teams. So basically your data ingestion has to be set up for these, your virtual desktops, logging, all that stuff, right? And it enables your security architects, SecOps, means security operations, and analysts, all of these people. So it does the multi-purpose. So for the sake of this video, what I'm going to do now is update it, and then maybe over 10, whatever. So I do not have any customize or something, so I'll just go ahead and do it. And this is the beauty of doing it in the cloud, and I should be able to do it. So I have this service as available, and that's it says updated successfully. So what we can do is Azure activity. There are some modification or maybe something new, so you can always go to the template, look what's new there. You go to Microsoft website, but for me, I will just go ahead and update all of them basically. But just wanted to give you some get an idea what it looks like if you do not have a setup your tenant like this. This is Azure Sentinel community. So usually it's like any software, you have Azure AD, sign in, and here there again email addresses, these. So they keep adding. So that's why it is very important, because you need to gain more insight about your organization depending on logging and monitoring. So that's why this is very important to keep updating. So let's Office 365 one. So Office 365 has a lot of sources, data sources, where it says Office 365 tracing and analyzing all operational activities into SharePoint, OneDrive, Exchange, and help you find usage. So if there are any improvements, definitely it's a must-have to update it. And already I have set up 365 and already put a 365 log ingestion video on my Sentinel playlist. If you go and take a look in Azure playlist, you'll find the Sentinel videos, and this is where you can find that. So my workbook, I'm still gonna go, and you can, if you want, you can skip this video, but I'm gonna go and apply and make update all of them, because that's my production tenant, and I must have, because it's been a while, as I said. And then I want to make sure I have the latest and greatest available, so I can have more visibility in my environment, and this will help me dig deeper into my tenant when it comes to pull reports, incident management, and overview. For example, the one we are talking about. So general information, entity data, customization, saves, and editing. So you can play a lot. Go to Microsoft website or GitHub. You can even learn a lot from there. So what I have done so far, pretty much completed the one I have already set up in my environment. Now if you go with this templates available, there are 80 of them, right? So you can always view them and save it. So again, you can view it without saving it, but if you want to use it for a later purpose, you can save it. So the one with green is already been set up, and the one without this bar are not set up, or it's not saved basically. So Microsoft keep adding these things, and this is something I have not seen before, so it's a new addition, which is a good sign. And you can find from other vendors like Citrix, Cisco. You can bring the data, you can have visibility. So basically what it means, if you're ingesting the data from Cisco, and if you use this template from Cisco, basically then it will, from the vendor, they publish their template here, and will give you the access and reporting to the Cisco, so instead of building something on your own, you have to do it. So this is about now Maxwell Exchange compromise hunting. Let's say if your exchange online, if you see there is something compromise have happened back in 2021, we all know that SolarWind hack and all these. So this will do the job. So I'm going to save it, and definitely in my next video, what I'm going to do is that I'll set it up and run it and see if there is something suspicious. So based on what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve, this is very helpful, and you should only set up and save the workbooks what you need. Again, I'm not doing any IoT here or no Linux machine, but I want to look at my Microsoft 365 security pusher, so I'm going to save this as well. You see my region is there, everything, so I'll just keep it as default. There are MITRE attack workbook I have set up before, so that's those who are in cybersecurity, they must be aware of this. If I'm running any WAF in my environment, then I need that workbook. So I hope you're getting the idea which workbook make the most sense. So you're collecting the logs, and for the logs you need to have a dashboard, and this is where these workbook make sense or make applicable. So if you have any Microsoft security alerts configured, you want to save it, and that's how you do it. Sentinel community, I want to save this one as well. I believe they have added another, in my opinion, 20 or 30 in the last 3-4 months. So that's in a nutshell. If you have a tenant, go check it out, try it yourself, and you're gonna learn a lot of stuff. I decided to put something on Azure Sentinel. incidents because this is my live environment, and I'm also check some predefined rules and activity in my Office 365 in Azure. And as you can see, there's a ton of information available. Some of them are test, and some of them are legitimate, but they are all real. But the threshold and everything that's been configured, and that's why these incidents are being reported. So doesn't mean if there's something in high is a high incident, because the way I have set up those incidents based on my requirement. So let's just walk through, so kind of give you some understanding. So the one I'm going to look at it here is July 6th, and legacy auth means there's an attempt for legacy authentication logging into my tenant. Now if you see, these are the details. Somebody used my ID, IP address, and all that stuff. So what I'm going to do is find the details and verify, because that's 74 IP, if it looks familiar, one of my IP addresses here in US. But again, is something you want to dig into, that you can say that. So here, when I clicked on this, the 74 seems to be a known IP address, but the authentication detected at this time, the incident number, as you can see, if this IP has any outbound or any connection to this IP is all clear. Connection with T1 and all that stuff not there. So let's take a look what do we get here, if there is any good information available or not. This is the link to log analytics. Rule name, I set it up rule. If there's an attempt, so it could have been my MacBook or something. So this is what you need to dig into, that incident by incident, and then you have to set those up and dig into those and find more details. So let's switch gear. Let's go back basically to more incidents. So I would want to give you some more details, looking at some other alerts basically. And this is how you can troubleshoot when you set up your live tenant basically. Audit activity by user, anomalous activity, if there's any admin activity. But I wanted to look at something, maybe admin activity. Let's see if what we find here, and the data is available, and then we can go to the full details and see what do we find here. It's July 10, 2 p.m. my time in US in Eastern time. It's a medium, initial access execution, entry to the administrator, system owner ID. Let's dig into that and find what's there. And then it comes to your log analytics, where this is how the alert was generated. You can click more details, and you can log in and see if there are any further details available, what query was run basically. That's there, and that's the data you show. Then it will show you more details, the counts and everything, the entities, and the tenant name and everything. So that's one way of doing it. And then you can put the chart, because there are not enough data available, so you cannot go and look for chart. Again, you can look for more hunting and find some more details around that. If I go back to more incidents, where incidents are being generated, then you can click on, for example, the test rule I created. Or maybe I want to give something not on the user legacy, we covered already. Anomalous, which is a high basically, and we want to see why this is. There are 4 events, 1 alert, and it appeared as high, and there have been based on these 5 tactics. Now it's getting the data and see if it's related to a sign-in activity. if you look at this, basically this is a legitimate, but I can ignore this because it's probably I was going to log in because my location, as you can see. So that's why, in that case, I would not be concerned because it created, because it's I know it's my location and I've been using this, so that's why I created those alerts and see they are working the way it's supposed to be. That's why you can do is that in this type of alert, you need to exclude your IP, let's say your office IP or something, or you can exclude the location where you log in. There could be some different creative ways of doing it. That's what you have to do. So that's where, so here, let's say if you're getting logging in from any unknown IP location which you have never logged in before, or it's unknown or not detected by Azure, this is why it's showing up that, okay, there's a request from this IP. So this is even more useful than unknown IP location trying to sign into your then you have to further dig into that. So now I do not have so many accounts, it's just one or two accounts. But in a bigger environment, if you're getting a lot of unknown IP location logging into your environment, that you have to take different approaches and do some more analysis, and then you have to dig into that. So this is in a nutshell that Azure Sentinel incidents. How does it work? You'll have to set it up, and then once you come to the dashboard, they gets reported, and from there you can take action, you can do further investigation. So this is the logs being collected from different sources, which I've already explained in my other videos, that how do you collect the logs from different data connectors. And in my new videos, I'll be covering some other more new updated stuff. So stay tuned, subscribe my channel, and watch for some more videos. Thank you and bye. Yes, hello everyone. Today we're gonna talk about Microsoft 365 Defender, which is already in preview, but we'll take a look, and I hope I will be able to open the connector and set it up. So before we go, let's have some introduction about myself. My name is Adnan Rafiq. I'm based out of here in New Jersey. My recent certifications are CISM and CDPSC, Privacy Security Engineer. And a little bit about myself: been Microsoft MVP for a couple of years, certified Exchange, Office 365 certified, and been doing a number of projects for big Fortune 50 companies. So that's being said, if you have not seen previous videos about security and Azure Sentinel, there's a playlist with the name of Azure, and I may set up a new specific to Sentinel if I end up making more videos. But there's the Azure section, you will be able to find a number of lectures, and there will be more. So now let's get back to Defender. So as you can see, the Defender is an endpoint. What it means that it's basically coming from the protection for the desktops. So in any corporate environment, you have Windows 7, Windows 10, for example. So you need to protect those, and have your security operation system security team to take actions. So if there's a malware, if there's a virus or something. So there, why Microsoft Defender gives the protection for your endpoint devices, which we can see here. It says endpoint identity, email, applications, along those. So if an malicious email get delivered to your inbox and onto your computer, so it will be able to help and protect. So here we have some what it includes in the suite, or in other words, we can say it has a dependency. And dependency basically is providing you the protection against 365 or email. So basically, Defender for Office 365 and Cloud App Security, Identity, and Endpoint. So this is now available, and this is now have the integration with Sentinel. So basically, you can ingest the data for Defender into Sentinel. So basically, in one single dashboard, you have the full visibility about your environment. And that's the beauty, because that's why you want to use the SIEM and source. So basically, Azure Sentinel give you that capability to have your data collected from different sources. I've seen in my previous videos where I was setting up and configure Microsoft 365 and other data connectors to pull the data from, but Defender goes to an extra mile, which is also protecting your desktop, your endpoints, and that's why it includes, or the component of that part of this Defender are, as I said before, Defender for endpoint, Defender for identity, Defender for 365, which is formerly known as Office 365 ATP, Advanced Threat Protection, and Microsoft Cloud App Security. So let's take a look while we continue. I have just clicked on it, and then we'll go through a number of scenarios. So basically, I just did a one-click option to connect it, and here it's give me a number of data which I need to set up and configure for endpoint connected, right? So I do not have a fully configured environment, but as you can see, it can collect and give you the visibility. For example, the device info, the network info, whatever has to do with the endpoint. We have device events, for example, sign in from authenticated events. So all these events will be collected and then configured here. Same thing for Office 365. Let's see if there is something available. If not, then we'll find out. Same thing for identity, same thing for app security. So I already configured Microsoft 365. So as soon as available, it should be popping up some data here. For identity, already I have set up in my Microsoft Azure tenant. So we should be able to see that. If not, then maybe in a week later, 2 weeks, once it is available, I should also be able to show you because that's the source of the data is coming from. So there is no data, means even if I select him, I would not be able to collect because I do not have any device reporting to Defender. That's why I am not able to see. For that, I will have to configure those devices. If I want, I can just connect it, but since I do not have, I'll wait for this to pop up and then make sure I connect it, so we first understand. And also, if you need that, we need a license, M365E5 or M365A5, otherwise it may not work. Another good thing to know is a bidirectional. So if you're pulling the data to Sentinel, you can also see the incident status on your Defender. For example, somebody works on an incident in Sentinel, so that can also be replicated in Microsoft Defender itself. And so this is how I did show you just how to connect to Defender here. It can take some time, and what is there, then I should also be able to see the data here. This is what I'm saying. So in the meantime, we can say Microsoft Defender basically will produce alert as same I have shown you in my previous videos, and then you can assign those incidents or alert to part of the people in your team or your SOC analyst. You can use that, and then it will also allow you to avoid any duplicate alerts. So it's a nice tool, and then as I said before, you can provide a two-way or protect your devices as well, and you can do the hunting across. So basically, whenever attacks or anything happens, you want to look at the lateral move or something along those lines. So there are different ways to troubleshoot, but that's being said, this will allow you to have more visibility, which has been missing for quite a while, because you could see the data and traffic in Microsoft 365 and identities, but you did not or not able to see the data or visibility for the Defender itself. So once it gets populated, I'll I'll add that. For now, I'm going to pause it and we'll come back again. Now, as you can see, I am logging back to my Azure Sentinel and Azure Defender, which I was trying to set up, but it took some time. According to Microsoft documentation, it takes 10 minutes. So again, I see it's working. It shows connected, and bidirectional is disabled. If you want, you can enable it. So I do not have that, so I want to keep it turned off. And is an option where it says you can create incidents automatically. So if there's something goes bad, it will automatically create incident in your Sentinel. Before I do that, it says enable all. However, we can see some next steps recommendation also available here. So if you scroll down, you can find more, create, this is the review. So you can create incident based or Azure Defender, and you can also do some more extra alerting based on that. I'm just going to run it and see, does it bring anything or no. If it's not, then we may have to enable it. So I'm going to go back and we go instruction. If I enable it, let's see what's going to happen here. Okay, so this is important thing. Azure Defender off, Azure Defender on. That's I wanted to see here because this is my also first time setting it up in my Azure Sentinel. So it's live production environment you see here. So if I enable all, it will enable for everything, and it's gonna be charging me for that. So it's going to be really very expensive for me if I turn this on. But again, based on your business need, you can turn off, turn on, whichever it is. So I'm going to turn off all of them. I don't want to spend money on these. Storage if you wanted to. So I do have some storage spin up. If I want, I can do it. Kubernetes is there. Container registries are there. CI/CD related, if you want to have some investigation into that, that's another area. Key vault if you wanted to have. Resource manager, DNS. So for now, I'm going to come and turn it off. And also, it depends on your requirements. So DNS, maybe you want to turn it on. That's if you're leveraging Azure DNS services. So you definitely want to have, if you have programming and a CI/CD development environment and using container and Kubernetes, you may want to turn it on here as well. And also for the storage. So, and that's, what you can find more, what's going to do, just-in-time VM access, and threat protection for Azure VM and EDR. So it's really cool to have this feature available, and you can customize it based on your organization needs. So again, if you have this feature, turn it on and start exploring, and let me know in the comments suggestion if it's helpful, and I'll see you in my next video. Hello, welcome to another episode on Azure Sentinel, and this is just for educational purpose. I wanted to share. Those who've been watching and who come to first time on this Azure Sentinel video, you may want to, if you're first time, you may want to go to the previous videos, or you can still watch it, but there are many videos under Sentinel library. And for this particular video, I wanted to talk about some of the features, because you have seen in the previous video, if you go and watch, you're collecting the data and everything, and then you have this nice beautiful dashboard. And but the point is that when it comes to security and event management and monitoring, you want to do some actions. The thing I'm going to explain, it will handle some piece of the SOAR as well, security automation basically. And there are different areas where you want to fix it, or you want to get some notification or something. Basically, you want to avoid some manual stuff. So for example, what you see on the screen is you're collecting the data and alerts are being generated. Now what, right? You have all this information, but how this information is useful to or not, that's very important. And you're collecting the data from all over. So what you're going to do with that? So let's say you configure it, you have collecting sign-in logs, user signing in, audit logs, Office 365 logs, third-party logs, whichever you collect on SIEM, which is Sentinel in this case. It can be any SIEM. And now from there onwards, you want to do some actionable items. So one of the example I'm going to cover, and of course there are a ton of incidents there, which I'll show you. And I did configure one. I'll give you as a business case, which is very common, as long as you have 365 Microsoft 365 configured or any other services. So let's have a look, because we want to do something actionable. So come here to this option. I believe analytics will give us the information what I'm looking for. So what I'm looking here is if these analytics are there out of the box, and the one you see high and red, I have enabled all of them in my tenant. So there is something called Fusion running in behind, which is an AI. So when there are two medium type incident and the confidence level is high, so two medium becomes one high basically. So if they are weak, then it may go to low. So that's the science behind showing these events high. So those are enabled. As you can see, pretty much everything is enabled in my tenant. Unknown IP location, for example. So in this example, what I'm going to cover is I want to see, let's say I have an Office 365 configured, and we talk about authentication. When it comes to cloud, we want to make sure authentication is strong, credentials are not leaked, because it could be through email phishing and could be through anything. So we want to protect that. So Microsoft has stopped supporting or discouraging, I would say, legacy authentication. And what legacy authentication it does, does not, it just, you can be fine just with username and password, versus the multi or advanced or modern authentication where you have to support multi-factor authentication. So I have set this up modern authentication in my environment, but still, if I want to monitor what's going on, if there's an attempt on legacy authentication, because there are chances, there are different scenarios which can be using legacy authentication, could be a service account, for example. So there are so many alleged cases. So if you want to monitor and want to make sure your identity and authentication pieces control, you have full visibility, there is something called legacy auth. So if you go to legacy auth, you have these three types. For the world, one of them is just the alert, one of them just legacy auth attempts, and one of them is login attempt using that legacy auth itself. So you don't want to come and check or manually, or basically you want to make sure if you have implemented modern auth, or if you still have some things which are being attempting on those accounts, whichever the case is for legacy auth, you want to have some visibility. So when you click those, the whole script is there, and it goes here like say 14 days. So what I would want to know is that if you can select all three of them or one of them. Let's say for me the most interesting one is attempts. Basically any attempt, not the login, any attempt happens, I need to get notified. And this is the actionable item I was talking about, that if something happens here, and these are the tactics are going to be applied, like initial access, credential access, privilege escalation. So these are coming from MITRE framework. So these are the tactics, right? If you click here, and you may see the same tactics or different. Let's find out. So yeah, so initial access and persistence. So this is different. So for me, and this one is also, we can check. So that's what you need to understand when you set those up and have some understanding. So this is only initial access. So what I wanted to go is that if there is something, anything which is legacy authentication attempt, which has three tactics being applied, I want to be notified. And how can I do that? Very simple. We'll go here, create, and a Microsoft incident creation rule. When I go there, I will be able to create an incident rule, which will be then appear in my incident here dashboard, which I have already configured. If I go there, I can show you, and then it will show me the incidents created on the dashboard. This is very simplest example of SOAR, which is not SOAR 100%, it's not going to fix anything. At least if I come to my dashboard, if I see what incidents have happened in my environment, as you can see, I can see this one is being happened, and I can find the details here. There's one alert generated for that, and the date itself, on which account, which is my account, the IP address and everything. So you see the power of this. So I don't have to go there back and manually run the analytics every 5 minutes or every hour. It's already being run by the system itself and generating the alert based on that. So what I'm going to do is that tactics are there, initial access and all that. So in this case, I know what's being done and IP address and everything's fine. So I'm not concerned. But of course, if it were a different IP address or something else, I would have been very much concerned. So that's why you have to look into that and have to have a better visibility to give me the full what time it was in the morning, the tactics, initial access and everything, the IP and all that stuff. One more step further, let's see what does it give it. So I have not configured any playbooks. I'm going to go back basically. So I can even set up a playbook and automate it. What action do I need to take? For example, disable the account and something like that. I could have done it. But that's the idea. You can create different number of incidents matching out of the box rule available. And then it can be displayed on the dashboard and give the summary of all incident, like admin activity I have configured. If somebody perform, I get the alert here. Audit activity, even the legacy auth alert, right? And anomalous activity, right? So these are all there. I have configured it. So that's something you can start playing around and do it and see how does it work for you. So that's it for now. In this particular episode, you can see the incidents and everything. So I'll hope cover some more information in my future videos. Stay tuned. We'll see you in my next video. Thank you and bye. Hi, welcome again. So today I'm just going to show you this dashboard and help you understand what this dashboard is all about in Azure Sentinel. So if you have configured just now, you may not have the same dashboards here. There's a little stuff you may need to do, because the data is going to be shown here is based on the configuration you may have. For example, you have to set up the Sentinel to collect the data from different sources, and based on that is going to be displayed here on the dashboard. So if you look at total alerts are there, but these alerts are coming from these activities, for example, or the signing logs, right? I can easily ingest the signing logs because of my Azure AD tenant, and if there are any suspicious activities, it will generate the alerts based on the machine learning and machine teaching and AI and the way you have set it up. On top of that, you can see also office activities, something I have set it up. And if you want to learn more, you can watch my other videos where how you can set up the data connector and ingest the log. So that's what it's all about. That is it has the activity from Microsoft 365 tenant and collecting the logs from there. Signing logs, again, I just told you about from the Azure AD itself. When people sign in, these are the logs are here, and all these alerts, 117 alerts. I mean, and then you have to go and take a look on these alerts manually. Some of the stuff you can also automate it depending. So if when I hover, it tells me that there are 2 alerts and it's based on those 77 activities, and nothing shows on signing log, so maybe something else. If I come here, these are, as you can see, here it says, okay, it has something to do with the sign-in logs. So I would want to go and check what's going on. Here it has gone down. So if you go back and forth and we want to look at the alerts itself, the chart is real time, will give you the data accordingly, right? Potential malicious event, I don't see here anything. Nothing has been found, because with this graph or the map is very useful, especially if you want to look for some outbound malicious activities happening in the environment. It will just show you right here. So this is very important. So nothing is there, which means something, you still have to investigate, but there is no connection being made out, for example, from your tenant or the services outside. One more thing I want to add here is based on 30 days. So you can do it last 24 hours. And why it is important, because the number of users you are supporting in this organization, for example, for me, it's just one or two user. But if you have, I've seen the environment as big as, 5,000, 50,000, 100,000 environment. So this gets very complicated, and then you have to really tweak it and customize it, because too much data, it's become real problem. So that's why another reason to change the timeline, and also based on the particular thread or something you wanted to check and investigate. Here, if I go to, let's say, 30 days, I have different data available. If I go to 14 days, so it all goes back how far you're going to go back for particular thing to trace or hunt. And as you can see on the right side, all these things, security incident happen, usage and everything. So if I can go and click here, it will give you the more details around the security incident. And then you can leverage this and find out more. So we're just waiting for the data to be popped up here. Security incident happened on 23rd of August. And then what are those 6 count happens? And there on the left side, you can also check some of this stuff here. So it's all, you have to start digging into that. You'll have to start looking into that. You need to know a little bit of about Kutsu language, the log management, the audit logs. This data is being pulled from Azure activity. There is some stuff related to sign-in logs. So basically, then you have to start digging into that and start hunting and chasing. So basically, that's how it's gonna help you. And this is where the area you can apply these different data types here, different input. So basically, from this system on, where you need to learn about the Kutsu language. And also there is a chart, as you can see, and you can see which day you have more security incident versus less. So it all depends on the environment, because just example here. I hope this helped. Let me know what you think, and in the future videos I'll be adding some more stuff there. So that's what we covered here today. The dashboard of this thing, and let me see if I can go back more than 30 days. Usually it should give you something along like 90 days, but let me see if I have this thing available in my environment. So we started from June to now. Yeah, it's June to September, as you can see. Now I am able to see for what, 5-6 months. So it does allow you up to 90 days, I believe. So you can do the math. It looks like pretty much that range, and you can see how many alerts have been happening. So it also helps, let's say if you apply some policies and everything, so alert may go down. So it kind of keep track which month alerts have been going up and down, and you can take the action based on that. I hope that helps, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you and bye. Hello everyone, thanks for joining in. And today I have something brand new I saw at Azure website. Is about something in public review is called UEBA for User Behavior Analytics. And now they have announced it, and I believe it's in public review or preview. And user and entity behavior analytics basically give you the meaningful insight about particular user. And I'm logged in, as you can see on my screen, where it has an option to configure it. So it's the very first time I just saw it, so I'm just thinking to put a video together, so I'm not sure. As we go, we learn what's there, because first time I'm setting it up, this brand new feature. And here, only global administrator or security administrator in your organization can turn this feature on and off. So there are some prerequisites. So I'm logged in as an administrator here on my tenant, so I should not have any problem. But here, if you look at what permissions available, and you can set it up, and it's about how Microsoft is using your data. So this is important because data privacy is important. And then you need to go and deal or read more details about data protection addendum, because depending on the size of the organization your tenant is set up. So in this lab or in this particular setup, I have everything US based, so I do not have any issue. But it's a setup you have across different countries, depending how your log analytics is set up, your SIEM is set up. You may have to pay attention to that. So we'll just go and enable it. But in the meantime, I clicked on that feature for the settings and everything, so which I was thinking, but I think we can go back and simply enable it. So as soon as I come back, here's an option to enable it, and I'm gonna go enable and see what happens. Because as I said, I do have permissions. I should not have any problem. So now turn on the UEBA feature to sync Azure Sentinel with Active Directory, creating profiles for the user and entities in your organization. So you may have to do some work here. Here only global administrator or security admin, so I'll turn it on. Then here I'll have to select the data sources, okay, which is very important. So audit logs and sign-in logs. So basically, if you go and take a look in my previous video about Azure Security Center and Azure Sentinel SIEM, I covered that portion already, where we talk about sign-in logs and audit logs, which pulls from the Azure AD, and also work even in hybrid environment based on the setup you may have. But here, without anything, don't see any issue, and you should be able to find. And here it says after the connection, data source will be able to enable them for entity behavior analytics. So it's telling about once you enable it, it will start just do the analytics around that. So what I'm going to do is that apply now, and it may take some time, and then we will see how soon or when this will be available, is updated. So before I go there, here are some permissions. Again, how do they use the data and everything. So a few seconds ago, so it will take some time, and then we'll see what kind of data is going to pull up. And if I come back home, Sentinel, my tenant, entity behavior. So as you can see, we have this entity behavior, but I don't think so I'll have the data available right after. But maybe it looks like it. Let's go on the overview, but again, that I was not looking for. So there is some information available. Let's have a look. So this seems to be something new, I believe, from this option, investigate. If I want to do investigation here, and then 90 plus admin activity performed. So what are those activities, which I don't know. So I'm going to click on all those 90 activities, and hopefully it will give me the data. So today is September 6th. So these things are performed basically as I'm doing it. You can see it. The things in action perform. But again, I don't want to have any alert for such activities. But if there were some activities done in those dates, which I have not worked any admin activities, then those could be suspicious, and this is what you can start looking into that. So I'll be covering more, but again, just I wanted to give you a very high level since I see this today in my environment, and just wanted to see how simple it is to set it up. So today we're doing one more Microsoft Sentinel hunting. So let me go back here. I have hunting thing, as I told you in my previous video. We have all these templates. So what I'm going to do is, last time we did conditional access policies, and we were looking at the data into like 30 days. And when I'm talking, I'm looking at the screen there, so I may not be able to have a eye contact with you directly. Apologize for that. So we have that, and what I'm going to do is find an interesting one here. And the results you're seeing is basically I am running these. So here is something also, the live and all these things there, which I have not configured. Securities I have, you can always do it, adjust it exactly the way you want it. Okay, so there are something interesting. The SharePoint file operation with client IP with previously unseen user agent means this client has not been used in the past. So let's have a look. What I'm going to do now is to basically go back to hunting. So there were some admin account activities. All right, so it's even better now. So what I'm going to see is something. All right, so we have seen something here, admin activities, which I can recall what activities I have been doing it. So operation was done, install admin audit log. Admin activity originating server is one of those Microsoft server. So if you're an Exchange administrator, you know what I'm talking about here. Then based on my investigation, I will have to make something. So if you're working a security person, then you will have to then redirect it to the Exchange team in this case particular, and they will have to investigate. So I'm not gonna go and do the investigation here. And basically for these type of activities, you gotta have some alert monitoring team, going to your SOC team, going to your incident response team, whichever. We have looked into this previously. We just talked about it, this one, because an activities of Microsoft may have performed some activities there. All right, so what we're going to do next here, I was going to share some SharePoint here. So we're gonna look into SharePoint one, which I started initially looking to SharePoint file activity. We go click here, we run the query, or we run the query directly from here. You can look into the technique if you wanted to. You go to an open page and you can find the micro attack and techniques everywhere here. So I'm gonna run the query here. I am going to see the query result here, and then we'll look into that what's going on. Again, time range, you can change it. Here I have only one page. There are some services, one note. Okay, so again, I've been using OneNote. Doesn't sound suspicious, so it depends. Since I know it, I've been using it, so that's why it kind of makes sense. So this is where if you see this kind of activity, if you wanted to set up alert from security operations, security SOC, you do that. But when it comes to Azure Sentinel hunting, when it comes to subject matter expertise, when you come to engineering and stuff, where you have to dig into those and see what's going on in your environment. So as an engineer, security engineer, Sentinel engineer, you'll have to dig into those. You have to figure it out. Okay, what's going on? What is normal environment in my environment, and what is not normal in my environment? So basically, this is important for you to understand, and then take action accordingly. And these are the agents and everything. So I hope that makes sense. One thing I can show you here is you can set the time range here. You can run it to again 7 days. You can change it. Okay, there were no activities in the last 7 days, whichever the case is. So here is another. So I'm going to share one more before I wrap this up. We can go back here and look for some more hunting. If there are some activities going on into the environment. So anomalous sign-in activities. So give me a second, let me just. All right, so we have this anomalous sign-in activity. If you wanted to find any anomaly, and then we can see that it's worth checking it out, because this is one of the most common scenario. We have these happen in the last few days, and you'll have to, I'm not gonna go more, like you can see from here evidence is showing okay, false, uncommon, high volume of actions, and all these. This is coming from Microsoft Graph, so maybe pretty much Microsoft 365. Exchange Admin Center, I know I used it, so that's why it's there. I'm gonna show. So if you see the Microsoft Graph IP address is different, so this is coming from Microsoft basically. And Microsoft 360 security and compliance, so I used that. I logged in when I lost to Microsoft. So so again, this is an engineering thing. From when you work from a SOC analyst, you may not be dealing with that. So again, the reason I'm telling you again is I have a variety of videos available where I'm talking about SOC analyst job and all that. So this is really specific to Azure Sentinel or security Sentinel related stuff. So you'll have to look into that and figure it out yourself. And now all the queries, when you can see, are running here, and it's going to take some time. And after some time, we'll see some more updated data, updated result here, if there are any changes. If not, then result will remain same, which I hope it remains same. And then here you can see if you click on those, you can see the type of this. See, queries going up, 100 queries, 105. Result count is jump from 11 to 13 here, and queries being run is 100. It should 197. So as you can see, this counter is going up and up. So I'll just keep this video running so you can get an idea of the live environment, how these queries are being run. And I'll wait for it to come to 197 and gets completed. All right, so we'll just still wait. It's gone up from 11 to 15. I'm sorting by result here. So now when I'm starting with the result, as you can see, this is giving me like more details here. 340 related to Active Directory, 330 related to new admin account activity related to Office 365. Now 106 related to sign-in logs. We are looking at SharePoint 11, SharePoint IP, which has not seen before. So these are the things, these are the stuff, when you work as a Sentinel security engineer, Microsoft Cloud Security, Sentinel, these are stuff you have to look into that, dig into that. And from there, you can find out more details. So since I have 100 active, that's why showing 155. So in my next video, I'll show you how to leverage the remaining one, because as I said before, Microsoft keep adding more and more. So in my next video, I'll show you how to add more queries. So that's it for now. I'll wrap it up. If you like it, let me know, provide me feedback, share, like it, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you and bye. Hello folks, thanks for joining in another episode related to Azure Sentinel. And this time I'm going to cover non-native data connector. So example, if you have a scenario where you have to ingest the data from a source where the data connector is not available. So what would be the scenario? A scenario can be a hybrid setup. A scenario could be you want to collect the data from the source, which is non-Windows. It could be a Linux server, MySQL. It can be any firewall, any device where your security operations teams want to have the visibility. So in order to make sure you ingest the data from all the sources, it could be a router, switch, anything. How are you going to make sure that data get ingested? So this is important. And why is important? Because you want to have the visibility for your SOC people, for your blue team, for example, security operations, you want to have the visibility about all the sources. So you can perform, or the machine learning can perform analytics, which is Sentinel, and then it will help you do hunting. And this will let you then create incident and automatically remediate, or you can remediate manually depending. So if you do not have enough data, it will not make sense. So you want to make sure that you collect as much data as you can. So in the previous videos, we have been collecting the data from the data connectors available. But in that case, if the data collector is not available, how are you going to do it? All right. So we'll look at what architecture is supported when it comes to the data collector related to non-Windows, which is Linux. It could be a list, a syslog, a common event file system, whichever is supported. So we'll look into that. So let's move on to the portal. So here I'm going to Sentinel. I type syslog here. I have syslog. And I can go to the connector page. Before I go to the connector page, let's look at the architecture. So collect data from Linux-based source using syslog. It could be a Linux-based server, it could be MySQL, whichever. So this is a very simple architecture in a nutshell. This is supported, and these are your log sources. It can be Linux device. You can also be sending the data from your firewall, from router, from switches, everything to the syslog server, and then from syslog you can send it to Azure Sentinel. So imagine if you already have on-premises, or if you have another cloud, you're already collecting the data. Now you think, okay, now I want to put the data into Azure. This is how you're going to perform it. Here is one more architecture that you have so many sources here. They are sending to the data here, log forwarder, and from the log forwarder. So basically you are collecting all these logs on a centralized location here and then sending to Sentinel, versus here you were just directly sending, and it's a log analytics agent, which is the agent from Azure Sentinel, so you will have to install the agent. And basically the agent is different for Azure VM versus a non-Azure VM, but you will have to have the agent installed. You will have to have these ports open and set up on the firewall. So this will, if your appliance support, means if your appliance can be firewall, router, switches, if they support common event format over syslog, this is definitely going to work. And log analytics supports collection of messages sent by rsyslog or syslog ng, these things or commands, or you will have to make sure they're supported. And all the details are here. Machine type, Azure Linux VM, any other VM. So you will have to install the agent, step-by-step instructions there on the Microsoft website. So I would recommend, if you're in a situation, come to this page, have a look, all this information here, and then it should help you and support you. So one more information here related to that is another architecture, which is the supported architecture. Okay, here a little bit difference, but more better diagram here. So this is showing if you're all Linux machine in Azure, this is it. Simply you can start doing that, because as long as you have the agent installed, bingo, simply you can start sending the logs here. So the reason is that you're running your infrastructure on Azure, and if your syslog is on-prem like this and they are not Azure VM, then you'll have to install that particular agent, and it is TLS 514 port, whatever is required, you will have to do it. And also there are prerequisites, request and information available, what you will have to do, how do you configure the device and everything. And once you do that, how are you going to find the data, for example, right here. So if I come back, click on the data, so this is here. Simply you have to download, install the agent right here, and then for non-Azure. And I'm not scrolling down furthermore because it will just show my tenant and ID and everything. But I hope that give you high-level ideas. What you have to do now is set up your VM, start playing around and test it, and just support it. So it should work. You just may need to spend some hours in your lab and make it working. So I hope this is helpful. I'll see you in my next video, and thank you.